Sit down on my leg. Hush it.
No, man, I'm Quincy. You guys need to leave room too, because we have to stand there.
I know.
We gonna leave some room for you. Well, not with Quincy. Oh, yes, he's gonna sit in the back.
I got to see. He's going to sit in the back. Yeah, don't put your rump on me. Run down. Raw, horse ass.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
You gotta lift it by here. I don't care. You ain't touch that.
All rise. Courtroom 503, County of San Diego, State of California, is now in session. The Honorable Judge, Adriana Benuelos, is now presiding. Please be seated and come to order.
Good morning, attorney, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The charges of this case are the State of California versus defendant Brad Stevens. Mr. Stevens is charged with assault with deadly weapon, California Penal Code Section 245. The use of force or violence upon the person of another without consent committed with an object in such a manner as to produce death or great bodily harm. If there are any questions concerning the applied law, please inform the jury foreman. At this time, I would like each of the lawyers to stand and introduce themselves in the regarding clear, calm voice so that the whole court may hear them. Please, prosecution, introduce yourself.
Good morning, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Sheila Leatherman, and I represent the State of California in this action.
Good morning, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Jeremy Minter, and I represent the State of California in this action.
Good morning, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Chantel Hammond, and I'm representing the State of California in this action.
Now, defense, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Denise Leff, and I represent Brad Stevens in this action.
Good morning, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Monty Thomas, and I represent Brad Stevens in this action.
Good morning, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I represent Brad Stevens and in this action.
Valid, please swear in the jury.
All rise. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise. To base my decision. On all evidence. Presented in this case. Thank you, ladies.
We are now ready to start the trial. Prosecution, do you have any physical evidence to present?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to present the stick as prosecution exhibit A.
Bailiff, please hand this evidence to the defense.
We have no objection, Your Honor.
Do you have any more evidence to present?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to present this wallet as prosecution exhibit B.
Bailiff, please hand that evidence to the defense.
No objections, Your Honor.
Do you have any more evidence?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to represent this pocket knife as prosecution exhibit C.
Bailiff, please hand this evidence to the defense.
No objections, Your Honor.
Defense, do you have any evidence to present?
Yes, Your Honor. We would like this map of the arcade to be entered as defense exhibit A.
Bailiff, please hand this evidence to the prosecution.
No objection, Your Honor.
Defense, do you have any more evidence?
Not this time, Your Honor.
Let's continue with the case. We will now hear both prosecution and defense opening statements. Prosecution, if you're ready, please step forward and present your opening statement.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Jeremy Minter, and I represent you and you, the people of California. We selected you because we believe you will be fair and will make your decision based only on the evidence. You need to decide which witnesses have a reason to lie and which do not. You have been picked from many applicants because we believe you are conscientious, sincere members of our society. We also believe you are willing to follow our legal system. The evidence will show that on the night of June 4th, 1994, the defendant, Brad Stevens, attacked Mr. Martin Mann with this lethal weapon and struck him with such force in the face that it knocked him unconscious, crushed his nose, and caused great bodily harm. The facts will show that Mr. Stevens then cowardly ran from the scene of the crime without trying to help Mr. Mann, who lay unconscious on the floor of Melanie's Video Arcade. Testimony from reliable witnesses will show that the defendant, Brad Stevens, showed no remorse. You will hear Mr. Martin Mann, the boy who was injured, Connie Cook, who was his date, and an eyewitness, Richard Cervantes, the owner of the store, who apprehended and heard a confession from Mr. Brad Stevens saying he did it. Also Dr. Chen, who was the doctor that treated Mr. Mann's injuries. When Brad Stevens was asked why he struck Mr. Mann with the stick, he simply said, "I just had to, man, I just had to." Now again, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, think to yourself, which witnesses have something to lose and which have a reason to lie? Also, constantly ask yourselves these questions. Which decides whether... Also, constantly ask yourselves these questions, which decide whether Mr. Stevens committed assault and battery. When? Did he use force? Number 2, did he do it without the person's consent? And number 3, did he cause great bodily harm? We are confident, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that after all the evidence is presented, you will return a unanimous verdict of guilty. Thank you very much for your time.
Now, defense, you may give your opening statement.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Erin Bauman and I represent Brad Stevens. I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. Each of you are a vital part of this case. Every one of you has been picked because we know that you are sincere and conscientious members of our society who are willing to follow the rules of our legal system. We know that you will all be fair and you will base your decision based only on the evidence brought to you in this case. I'm sure that you all know that a person is innocent until proven guilty. Therefore, please look at my client, Brad Stevens. As you see him, he is an innocent person. In order for you to bring back a verdict of guilty, prosecution must prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that he is guilty of the accusations that are brought against him. Testimonies will prove that in fact Brad Stevens was assaulted first by Mr. Mann on the night of June 4th, 1994 in Melanie's Video Arcade. The prosecution will try to lead you to believe that Brad Stevens, my client, was the aggressor, when in fact it was Martin Mann during the game of Frogger, the small dispute over the game of Frogger, threw Brad Stevens to the floor and causing him to sprain his right hand. Because testimonies will prove from both sides that Martin Mann was so out of control that he had to be held by 2 people because he was threatening to cause further bodily harm to Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens believing his threats, then went to the drinking fountain to leave the scene. He went to go wash off his injuries. While cleaning his injuries, Brad Stevens and Tiny Morgan saw Martin Mann coming towards him rapidly. Brad Stevens, fearing that he was going to carry out his threat now and feeling helpless because his right hand was now sprained, he didn't know what to do. He saw Martin Mann reach for his back pocket, and fearing that it was a knife, Brad Stevens then grabbed for the first thing he could to defend himself and Tiny Morgan. On the night of June 4th, 1994, Brad Stevens acted within the law by defending himself with self-defense. The law allows you to defend yourself or anyone else if further harm is about to be inflicted. So ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are certain that if you put yourself in the place of Brad Stevens that night, that you would have used self-defense too. Therefore, we know that you will be fair in giving your verdict. And since self-defense is still a legal system today in this country, we know that you will find Brad Stevens, my client, not guilty. Thank you for your time.
Prosecution, you may call your first witness to the stand.
Your Honor, prosecution would like to call Mr. Martin Mann to the stand.
Mr. Martin, please approach to the stand. Bailey, swear to the witness.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you may give any now before this court may be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your name.
Martin Mann,
Spell your last.
M-A-N-N.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You can. You don't need to ask again.
Good morning, Mr. Mann.
Morning.
I understand you may be a little nervous. Just go ahead and take a second to relax.
Okay.
What school do you attend?
What's the
Excuse me, Your Honor, would you please instruct counselor? She has to speak up almost to the point of yelling. I know it's hard for ladies, you gotta really project your voice.
Please, prosecution, can you speak louder so that court can hear you?
Yes, Your Honor. I'll repeat my question. What school do you attend, Mr. Mann?
Still high?
Where did you go on the night of June 4th, 1994?
To Melanie Video Arcade.
And who were you with?
My date, Kearny Cook.
What did you do when you got there?
I noticed the fire machine was empty, so we decided to play.
Go ahead. Was the game occupied when you approached it?
No, it wasn't.
When did Mr. Stevens approach you?
Shortly after we started playing the game.
Mr. Mann, is Mr. Stevens in this courtroom?
Yes, he is.
Can you please identify him and point out and describe his clothing?
He's over there wearing a black sweater with jeans.
Your Honor, I would like the court to acknowledge that Mr. Mann has identified Mr. Stevens as in this courtroom.
Have you noticed Mr. Brad Stevens? He's on the right side. He's on the right side. Left side.
Mr. Mann, what did Mr. Stevens do when he approached you at the game?
He told me to beat it, that this was his game.
How did you respond?
Told him to go play Pac-Man.
Did you have to move Mr. Stevens out of the way, and why?
Yes.
And why did you have to
Because
do
he's
that?
trying to shoulder his way between me and the game.
Did you intend to hurt Mr. Stevens when you moved him?
No, I did not.
Did you step towards him after?
Yes, I did.
And why was that?
I wanted to help him up when he fell.
Did Miss Connie Cook have to step between you?
Yeah.
Do you know why she did that?
I guess she thought I was going to fight him or something, hurt him or something.
Did you verbally imply that you meant to hurt Mr. Stevens?
No, I didn't.
After Mr. Stevens left, what did you do?
I finished playing the game.
When did you decide you would leave?
After we finished playing the game.
And did you do so?
Yes.
Was the incident still on your mind at this time?
No, it was not.
Mr. Mann, what is this object here?
It's a wallet just like mine.
Would you please hold it? Wallet just like yours, you said, right?
Yes, it did.
Thank you. May I have a recess with my counsel, please?
You can.
And Mr. Mann, what is this object?
It's a pocket knife.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Mann, please hold these again. Do these two objects look anything alike?
No, they did not.
May I ask you another question?
Sure.
Have you ever stabbed anyone with your wallet?
No, I didn't.
Thank you. Could you see Mr. Stevens standing near the door?
I couldn't.
And why is that?
I was looking through my wallet for some money to buy some pizza.
What happened after you were hit?
I woke up in the hospital,
Which hospital is that?
county hospital.
And what were your injuries?
I had a broken cartilage, and I was knocked unconscious.
Thank you, Stevens. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Defense, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. May I approach the witness?
You can. You don't need to ask again.
Your Honor, would you please instruct Mr. Mann to answer my questions with a simple yes or no?
Mr. Mann, please answer yes or no to the questions the lawyer asked.
Mr. Mann, do you recall being at Melanie's Arcade on the night of June 4th?
Yes.
And is it true that this arcade was dimly lit?
Yes.
Were you and Miss Cook having a good time at the arcade?
Yeah.
So it really must have ruined your day when Mr. Stevens asked you if he could return to playing his game.
No.
Is it true that Mr. Stevens asked you to go play Pac-Man?
Yes.
And isn't it true that you just testified to say that he asked you to... Okay. And, or is it true that you told Mr. Stevens to go play Donkey Kong? Tell me, Mr. Mann, would you say that your thoughts or your actions are based on thought rather than impulse?
I understand the question.
Do you think about your actions rather than just reacting?
I think about it.
Objection, Your Honor, irrelevant.
Objection overruled. You may proceed.
May I call for a brief recess to...
You can.
Okay, at this time, I think I should instruct the people in here about the objections. What's happened is the lawyer is asking a question that this side thinks shouldn't be asked. And they want to stop the person from answering it before the jury hears it. So they're objecting. Now, the judge is going to decide, already decided, whether or not they are, the people that objected are right. They objected. So if the judge thinks that they're right, the judge will say, objection is sustained, which means I agree with you. If the judge thinks that their objection is wrong, the judge will say objection overruled, which means be quiet, you shouldn't have asked that, shouldn't have objected. And she will then say to the lawyer, you go ahead and ask that question. So I think you'll overrule that objection, right? Which means the lawyer can go ahead and ask the question.
I'll repeat the question. Mr. Mann, do you think about your actions rather than just reacting to them?
Yes.
So you mean to tell me that you actually thought about brutally pushing Mr. Stevens down? But you just said that you based your actions on thought rather than on impulse.
Objection, Your Honor, badgering the witness.
Objection sustained.
Do you know what assault is, Mr. Mann?
Yes.
Do you remember what you said after Mr. Stevens after you assaulted him?
I did.
Do you remember if you said that if you ever saw him again, you'd mess him up?
No, I didn't.
Were you and Connie Cook leaving the arcade at the time when you approached Mr. Stevens?
Yeah, we were.
Were you walking faster than you usually walk?
No.
Tell me, Mr. Mann, did you need your keys or ID to leave the arcade?
Please, defense, can you speak louder so everyone can hear you?
Did you need money to leave the arcade?
Yes.
Yes.
Please order in a court.
Do you think it is possible for Mr. Stevens to have thought that you were approaching him, seeing that he was standing in the way of leaving?
No.
You don't think that it's slightly possible for him to have thought that you were coming towards him? All right, thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Mann, you may be seated. Prosecution, do you have any more witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call Richard Cervantes to stand, please.
Mr. Richard Cervantes, please approach to the stand.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in this case, not pending before this court, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, it is.
State your name.
Richard Cervantes.
Spell your last.
Cervantes.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Good morning, Mr. Cervantes.
Good morning.
Are you a little nervous?
Just a little.
Go ahead and take a minute to relax. What is your occupation?
I'm the manager at Melanie's Arcade Videos.
Is there a sufficient amount of light in your video store in order to play video games?
Yes, there is.
Is Mr. Mann in this courtroom?
Yes, he is.
Can you please point him out and describe his clothing?
He's right there wearing a white t-shirt and blue jeans.
Was this the boy who was struck?
Yes, it was.
Can you please identify Mr. Stevens
He's over there.
and his clothing?
Wearing a black sweatshirt and blue jeans.
Your Honor, I'd like the court to identify that he has responded that both these witnesses are in the courtroom.
Please, jury, notify that Mr. Mann is over there in front of me, and Mr. Stevens at my left side.
And was Mr. Stevens the boy who attacked Mr. Mann?
Yes, it was.
Your Honor, sorry. Did you see Mr. Stevens pick up the weapon?
Please speak up, Counselor.
Correct my question. Did you see Mr. Stevens and Miss Morgan?
Yes.
And when did you see Mr. Mann?
As he was walking towards the front door.
What is this, Mr. Cervantes?
It's a wallet.
And what is this?
It's a pocket knife.
Do these two objects look anything alike?
No.
Thank you. Which of these two objects did you see Mr. Mann pull from his wallet?
The wallet.
I'm sorry, pull from his pocket.
The wallet.
Approximately how far away were you from Mr. Mann?
About 10 feet.
Okay. Mr. Cervantes, is this a lethal weapon that Mr. Stevens used to struck Mr. Mann?
Yes, it was.
And what is this for?
We use this to prop up the window on hot summer days.
Thank you. What was Mr. Mann's reaction to the blow?
He fell to the ground and was bleeding.
Did Mr. Stevens assist him in any way?
No, he dropped a piece of wood and ran.
Did you run after him?
Yeah.
Were you able to apprehend him?
Yes, I did.
And what did he say anything to you?
Yes, he said. I asked him why he did it, and he said he just had to.
After Mr. Stevens' confession, what did you do?
I took him back to the arcade and called the police.
Did Mr. Mann appear to act in self-defense?
No.
Your Honor, may I consult my co-counsel?
You can.
One last question, Mr. Cervantes. Did Mr. Stevens, did also Mr. Stevens appear to act in self-defense?
No.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay. Defense, would you like to cross another witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Cervantes.
Good morning.
Your Honor, would you please instruct Mr. Cervantes to answer my questions with a yes or no?
Mr. Cervantes only answer yes or no to the questions the lawyer says. Ask.
Is it true that you work as a manager for Melanie's Video Arcade?
Yes.
Would you agree that the lighting in Video Arcade is darker to complement the game's graphics?
Yes.
Isn't it also true that your arcade has darker lighting to show off the graphics of the games?
Yeah.
Would you agree that the lighting in this arcade is for to make precise judgments?
Yes, it is.
Do you remember what Brad Stevens looks like?
Yeah.
Would you point him out?
Over there.
Please, defense, can you speak louder so everyone can hear you?
At about 8:15 on June 4th, did you see Mr. Stevens and Miss Morgan at the water fountain?
Yes, I did.
Did Mr. Stevens look hurt?
Yeah.
Is it true that you were reading a brochure at the same time?
Yes, it was.
Would you say that you were concentrating on this material?
Yeah.
And because you're concentrating, you can't say for sure what caused this misunderstanding between Mr. Stevens and Mr. Mann, right?
No.
Is it true
Objection,
that...
Your Honor. The question called for a conclusion.
Objection overruled.
Is it true that you looked up just in time from your brochure to see Mr. Stevens strike Mr. Mann?
Yes.
After you caught Mr. Stevens running, would you say that he went back voluntarily?
Yes.
Do you think that if Brad or Mr. Stevens attacked him for revenge or...
Objection, Your Honor, calls for an opinion.
Objection sustained. Members of the jury, please disregard the last question defense asked. You may proceed.
So basically you have no knowledge about what happened except for you saw Mr. Mann get hit with a stick?
That's true.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Cervantes, you may be seated. Prosecution, do you have any more witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to call Connie Cook to the stand, please.
Ms. Connie Cook, please post to the stand.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you may give is not pending before the court may be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State your name.
Connie Cook,
Spell your last.
C-O-O-K.
May be seated.
Good morning, Ms. Cook.
Good morning.
Are you a little nervous?
Not really.
That's... What high school do you attend?
Westdale High School.
And where did you go on the night of June 4th, 1994?
Melanie's Video Arcade.
And who were you with?
Martin Mann.
Is he in this courtroom?
Yeah.
Can you please identify him and describe his clothing?
He has a white shirt on with a tie and blue jeans.
Your Honor, please let the record show Ms. Cook has identified Mr. Mann.
Please, members of jury and members of the jury, please notice that Mr. Mann is seated in front of me.
What did you do when you got there?
We went over to the Frogger game and started playing.
And when did you first notice Mr. Stevens?
A little after we got there, he came over and he was yelling at us, telling us to beat it.
What did Mr. Stevens do?
He pushed his way between Martin and the machine.
Hey, we can't hear the witness. You have to speak up.
Please, Ms. Connie Cook, I need you
Repeat that again.
to answer out loud.
Real loud, listen.
What did Mr. Stevens do?
He pushed himself between Martin and the machine.
Please, order in the court.
Did Mr. Mann push Mr. Stevens?
He just like pushed him lightly out of the way.
Could you demonstrate for him?
On you?
Yes.
Like just like.
And Mr. Stevens fell from that?
Well, it looked like he had tripped over his feet.
Did Mr. Mann approach Mr. Stevens?
I wasn't sure like what he was gonna do, so I just I went in front of him and just tried to stop him.
Did Mr. Mann verbally imply that he meant to hurt Mr. Stevens?
No.
What happened after Mr. Stevens walked away?
We were both upset about what had happened, so we just decided to go home.
And when did you leave?
When did we leave?
When did you leave?
After we decided we wanted to go home. Like, you know, right then. right then.
Did you bother to finish your game?
Yeah, we finished the game.
Please, I need you not to laugh about what they say or something because they're really nervous like I am, and they're gonna be more nervous than they are right now. Please.
Did you see Mr. Stevens as you were leaving?
Yeah, so.
Did Mr. Stevens hit Mr. Mann?
Yeah, he struck him.
What is this, Miss Cook?
That's what Mr. Stevens hit Martin with.
Did you warn Mr. Mann?
No, it happened so fast I didn't have time.
Did you try to assist Mr. Mann?
Yeah, I tried to revive him, but it didn't work. He remained unconscious.
Did Mr. Stevens try to assist Mr. Mann?
No, he ran away.
What were Mr. Mann's apparent injuries at that time?
He had a bloody nose and he was unconscious.
Did Mr. Stevens come back?
Well, Mr. Cervantes had to bring him back.
And was Mr. Mann taken to the hospital?
Yeah, he was.
Your Honor, may I consult with my co-counsel?
You can.
Did Mr. Mann ask to be struck in the face?
No.
So therefore it was without consent?
Right.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Defense, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, would you please instruct Ms. Cook to answer my questions with yes or no?
Please, Ms. Cook, only answer yes or no to the questions defense asks.
Ms. Cook, have you known Martin Mann very long?
No.
Would you say that he is a kind person?
Yeah.
When Mr. Stevens asked Martin if he could resume his game, didn't Martin get mad?
Yes.
Tell me, Ms. Cook, would a kind person push someone down merely over a video
Objection,
game?
Your Honor, calls for an opinion.
Objection sustained. Please, members of the jury, disregard the last question the lawyer asked.
Isn't it true that you and Miss Morgan had to restrain Martin Mann from assaulting Brad Stevens further?
No.
So you're saying that you didn't have to stop him from approaching Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Is it true that you were upset with Martin and you wanted to leave?
Yes.
As you were leaving, were you walking faster than usual to leave the arcade?
Yes.
So Brad, do you think Mr. Stevens could have thought you were coming after him?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for an opinion.
Objection overruled.
Do you think that Mr. Stevens could have thought that Mr. Mann was coming after him?
No.
As you were leaving, did you see Mr. Stevens' face?
Yes.
Did he look scared?
No.
Please, defense, I need time because time is over.
No, you reserve the right to recall a witness. Tell the judge that. Say, we reserve the right to recall.
We reserve the right to recall the witness.
Okay. Please order. Miss Cook, please, can you be seated? Order in the court, please. Let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that you are not to talk to any lawyer, witness, or have any access to outside information. Court is adjourned until tomorrow, 9:30.
Okay, we'll see you back here. Go back to the classroom, whatever your teacher wants, and then tomorrow morning.
You're not supposed to ask, you just know we're going to skip out of it and you went straight to the sentence. So when it comes to the end of the witnesses, don't just go, oh, wait a minute, that was the last person they had, let's go defense after. But it says right here, Albert. Albert here.
Should be able to outline so far the way a criminal trial goes. You should be able to, if your teacher asks you, you should be able to say, well, the bailiff comes in, opens the court, the judge comes in, lawyers introduce themselves, the judge reads the charge, the judge asks the defendant whether or not he's going to plead guilty or not guilty. Then there's swearing the jury, presentation of physical evidence like they did yesterday, then direct exam opening statements by the prosecution, opening statements by the defense. That's happening today, for example, in the OJ case. The prosecution did their opening statement yesterday, opening statement today. OJ's lawyers are going to give their opening statement. Then you have direct examination by the prosecution. Each witness comes up, and each witness then gets cross-examined by the defense. And then today you're going to see what happens from there on. So you should be able to outline a criminal trial, and all criminal trials happen the same way. Okay.
All rise. Courtroom 503, County of San Diego, State of California is now in session. The Honorable Judge Adriana Bolanos is now presiding. You may be seated and come to order.
Good morning, attorney, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. This is the second day of this trial, and let me remind you that the charges of this case are the State of California versus defendant Brad Stevens. Mr. Stevens is charged with assault with deadly weapon, California Penal Code, Section 245. The use of force or violence upon the person of another without consent committed with an object in such a manner as to produce death or greatly bodily harm. Is there any questions concerning the applied law? Please inform the jury foreman. At this time, I would like to ask defense if they want to recall Ms. Connie Cook.
Yes.
You should swear in the jury when again.
Bailiff, please swear in the jury.
I want to get them on camera.
All right. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise.
I promise
to listen.
to listen
And base my decision.
and base my decision
On all evidence.
on all evidence
Presented in this case.
presented in this case.
You may be seated.
Defense, would you like to recall Ms. Connie Cook?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Connie Cook, approach the stand.
Raise your right hand. solemnly swear the testimony that you may give in this court after will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name.
Connie Cook.
Spell your last.
C-O-O-K.
Thank you, Mr.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you can. You don't need to ask again.
Ms. Cook, yesterday you stated that you did not have to restrain Mr. Mann after he pushed Mr. Stevens down, correct?
Yeah.
The facts will show that you and Ms. Morgan did in fact have to restrain Mr. Mann after he pushed Mr. Stevens down. Do you wish to change your statement?
No.
No. Your Honor, would you instruct the witness to answer according to the facts?
Please, Ms. Connie Cook, answer yes or no to the questions the lawyer asked.
Yesterday you also stated that Martin was a nice guy, right?
Yeah.
After Martin pushed Mr. Stevens down, did he apologize for being unnecessarily rough?
No.
When Mr. Stevens and Ms. Morgan left to the fountain, did Martin say anything about pushing Mr. Stevens down?
No.
Did he express remorse for the incident?
No.
Can you agree that he is not sorry?
No, I wouldn't.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for an opinion.
Objection overruled.
Do you agree that he is not sorry? If Martin Mann is the nice guy that you say he was, do you think that he would have pushed me?
Objection, Your Honor, ask for an opinion.
Objection sustained. Please, members of the jury, disregard the last question.
Do you think that Mr. Mann would have had to resort to violence if he were the nice guy?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for an opinion.
Objection sustained.
No
Please.
further questions, sir.
Members of the jury, please disregard the last question the lawyer asked. Ms. Koniku, you may be seated. Prosecution, do you like to call? You may call your next witness to the stand.
Your Honor, I'd like to call Dr. Agnes Chen to the stand, please.
Dr. Agnes Chen, please approach to the stand.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony that you may give not pending before this court may be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Please state your name.
Dr. Agnes Chen.
Spell your last.
C-H-I-N.
Thank you, Mr. Seated.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You can. You don't need to ask again.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Chen.
Good morning.
And where do you work?
I work at the county hospital.
And what do you do there?
I'm an attending physician in the emergency room.
Do you have a medical degree?
Yes, I do.
How long have you worked in the hospital emergency room?
For quite a while now.
Have you seen many injuries?
Yes.
Have you seen ones of this kind?
I've seen some of this severity.
In your professional opinion, would you consider this to be
Objection,
great
Your Honor,
bodily
calls
harm?
for an opinion.
Objection overruled.
I will repeat the question. In your professional opinion, would you consider this to be great bodily harm?
Yes.
Being that this is the lethal weapon in question, would this have to have been swung very hard to do the great bodily harm it has done?
Yes.
Could this incident have caused death to Mr. Mann?
Possibly, yes.
Could there be any lasting injuries from this?
There could. He could have trouble breathing or smelling, that type of thing.
Around what time was Mr. Mann brought into the emergency room?
A little after 9 o'clock p.m.
And who brought him in?
The ambulance.
And what were his exact injuries?
The cartilage in his nose had been crushed, and he was unconscious.
In your professional opinion, how hard was Mr. Mann hit?
It had to have been pretty hard to cause that much damage.
Was surgery needed? And was it performed?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I have a quick wait basis with my co-counsel?
You can.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay. Defense, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Chen, do you recall the night of June 4th when Martin Mann was brought into the emergency room?
Yes.
He was in fact unconscious, right? Dr. Chen, do you know for a fact how Mr. Mann was injured?
I know he had been hit. I don't know exactly how that happened.
Is it true that cartilage can break easy?
I guess, yeah.
So his injury could have been caused by falling or any numerous reasons, right?
I don't think so because it was really bad and just falling wouldn't make something this bad.
Have you ever been to Melanie's Video Arcade?
No.
Do you know Brad Stevens? Do you know Tanya Morgan?
No.
Do you know Connie Cook?
No.
How about Richard Cervantes?
No.
Did you get a chance to speak with Mr. Mann at the hospital?
No, I didn't.
So you really don't know if Mr. Mann is violent or aggressive, correct?
No.
Since you don't know any of the witnesses or about the case, wouldn't your testimony here be irrelevant?
No, I don't think it would be.
Thank you. No further questions.
Dr. Agnes Chen, you may be seated. Prosecution, do you have any more witnesses to present?
May Your Honor, the prosecution rests.
Defense, would like to call your first witness to the stand.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Siegenberg to the stand.
Mr. Siegenberg, approach to the stand.
Raise your right hands. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in our opinion before this court may be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name.
Siegenberg.
Spell your last.
B-E-R-G.
And you may be seated.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You can, you don't need to ask again.
Good morning, Mr. Berg.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Are you feeling a little nervous? Okay. I won't take too much of your time today. I know you're a busy man. Would you please state your occupation for the court?
I'm a manager at the Big Wheel Motorcycle Shop.
Is this the same shop that Mr. Stevens works at?
Yes, it is.
Do you know Mr. Stevens very well?
Yes, I do.
Will you please point to Mr. Stevens and describe what he's wearing for the court?
Mr. Stevens, and he's wearing a black fitted sweater.
Your Honor, will you please let the record show that Mr. Berg coordinated the defendant, Mr. Stevens?
Yes, I would like to.
Just say the record will show that.
The record will show that.
Thank you. Mr. Berg, would you say that Mr. Stevens is a dependable person?
Yes, I would.
Would you say he gets along well with others in the store?
Yes, it does.
Has Mr. Stevens ever caused any trouble with anybody at the store?
No, he hasn't.
Does he seem like the type of person to cause trouble?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for an opinion.
Objection overruled.
Will you please answer the question, Mr. Berg?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Does he seem like the type of person to cause any trouble?
No, he doesn't.
Would you say he has the ability to stick up for himself if his life was in danger?
Yes, I would. Anybody does.
Mr. Berg, do you know what perjury is?
Yes, I do.
Do you know what the consequences are for perjury?
Yes, I do.
Will you please tell the court what it is?
You can go to jail.
With you having a business that is successful, do you have any reason at all for lying?
No, I don't.
Do you realize that if Mr. Stevens is found guilty, you will have one less employee?
Unfortunately, yes.
Do you feel you have any trouble finding another good employee like Mr. Stevens?
Not at all.
So you're saying you have no reason at all to lie under oath?
Not at all.
Your Honor, may I have a brief recess to
You
consult with
can.
my co-counsel? Thank you, Mr. Berg. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
The prosecution would like to cross a witness? Yes,
Good morning, Mr. Berg. As you stated earlier in your testimony, you said you were the manager of Big Wheel Motorcycle.
Big Wheel Motorcycle Shop, yes I did.
Can you please instruct the witness to answer all my questions with a yes or no response?
Mr. Siebenberg, only answer yes or no to the questions the lawyer asked.
Okay.
Isn't it true that you usually only see Mr. Brad Stevens on the weekends or occasionally after school?
Yes.
So that, would you say about 15 to 25 hours a week?
Approximately.
And don't you run a tight ship at your work?
Yes.
So then you never really actually see Mr. Stevens do too much socializing with other employees now, do you?
It's not true.
Please order in the court.
And do you ever see Mr. Stevens with his friends?
Objection, Your Honor, irrelevant. Objections overruled.
Your Honor, may I please approach the bench?
You can.
Wait.
Oh,
That
sorry. I thought that was... Okay, I'll repeat the question. Do you ever see him with his friends?
No, I don't.
May I please have a brief recess with my co-counsel?
You can.
Mr. Berg, as you said earlier in your testimony, you said that he's a good employee. So if he was such a good employee, does that mean your operation at your work wouldn't run smoothly?
No, it wouldn't.
So wouldn't that give you a reason to lie in court?
No, it wouldn't at all.
Okay. And you said you've never seen him with his friends, am I correct? Your Honor, can you please instruct the defendants not to coach his counsel? Coach his witness?
Please don't. Depends on coach, your witness.
Say we will not.
We will not,
Can you please instruct the witness to answer my question?
Please answer the question.
Can you repeat your question, please?
You've never seen him with his friends, am I correct?
Not outside of work, no.
Okay. And have you ever seen him playing video games?
No, I haven't.
And do you ever actually hang out with Mr. Stevens?
No, not the one that within work, no.
Okay, can you please tell him just to answer my question yes or no?
Only answer yes or no.
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you ever seen Mr. Stevens in an excited state such as the one he was in Melanie's arcade that night?
Objection, Your Honor, no personal knowledge.
Objection overruled.
Can you please instruct the witness to answer my question?
Please answer the question.
I would have to say no.
Okay, and have you ever been at Melanie's arcade?
No, I haven't.
And were you there that night?
No, I wasn't.
So then you really don't have any personal knowledge of what took place that night, now do you?
No, I don't.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Sudenberg, you may be seated.
Thank you very much.
Defense, do you have any more witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, I did a testimony to cause Jacqueline Vardy to stand.
Please order in the court.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly affirm that the testimony you may give not being before this court may be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please state your name. Spell your last. Thank you, baby. Seat.
Good morning, Ms. Vardy. Will you please speak up so the clerk can hear you? Ms. Vardy, do you know what perjury is?
Yes.
Have you ever committed perjury before?
No.
Do you know what the consequences are for committing perjury?
Yes.
Will you please tell the court what they are?
You can go to jail.
Do you have any reason at all to commit perjury?
No.
Ms. Vardy, will you please tell the court your occupation?
I'm a student.
What school do you attend?
South High School.
Do you know a student by the name of Brad Stevens that attends South High School also?
Yes.
Will you please point out Mr. Stevens for the court?
He's over there in a black sweatshirt and blue jeans.
Your Honor, will you please let the record show that Ms. Vardy pointed to the defendant?
Record will show that.
Ms. Vardy, do you know Mr. Stevens very well?
Yes.
Would you say Mr. Stevens is the violent type?
No, he's very quiet.
Will you please tell the court where you were the night of June 4th?
I was at Melanie's video arcade.
Where were you approximately 8 o'clock p.m. that night?
I went to the counter by the front door to get a drink.
Will you please stand up and point to the map to where at the location you were at?
I was right here.
Thank you. Your Honor, will you please let the record show that Mrs. Vardy pointed to the basket area that was on the map?
Record will show that.
Thank you. How far would you say you were from the door?
About 10 feet.
So you could say that you could see anyone by the door?
Yes.
Did you happen to see anybody that you knew by the door that night?
Yes.
Will you please tell the court who it was?
It was Tanya and Brad.
Can you see what they were doing?
Tanya was holding the water faucet while Brad was washing his hand off.
Did you notice anything that happened after Brad stopped washing his hand?
I saw Martin and Connie walking very fast towards them.
Will you please tell the court what happened next?
Martin and Connie were coming towards him and Brad stood there and they just approached really close and Brad grabbed a stick and hit him with it.
Can you remember anything else about that night?
I remember what they were wearing.
Will you please tell the court what everybody was wearing?
Tanya was wearing a skirt and a yellow shirt. Brad was wearing pants and an orange OP t-shirt. Connie was wearing purple pants and a tube top. And Martin was wearing blue jeans with his name printed on it. For the shirt.
Your Honor, may I have a brief recess?
You can.
Thank you, Ms. Vardy. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, we would like to press another witness.
Sorry. Good morning, Ms. Vardy. Can you please instruct the witness to answer all my questions with a yes or no response?
Ms. Barty, only answer yes or no to the questions.
Okay. Did you ever go out with Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
And didn't you go out with him on several occasions?
Yes.
And isn't it true that you would like to go out with him again, but he never called back?
Yes.
And also, in your statement, didn't you tell your lawyers that you would testify since Brad Stevens was your friend?
Yes.
So, in fact, wouldn't that give you a reason to lie for him today in
No.
court? Okay. Do you really like seeing your friends charged with crimes?
Excuse me?
Do you really like seeing your friends being charged with crimes?
Objection, Your Honor, irrelevant.
Objection overruled.
Okay. When you were at the arcade, did you see Mr. Brad Stevens and Mr. Pan?
Yes.
Okay. Was the lighting dimly lit?
Yes.
But yet it was bright enough for you to see what everybody was wearing?
Yes.
So wouldn't that mean that it was pretty light in there, if you could see all the way across what people were wearing?
Yes.
Okay. When you were at the arcade, did you see Mr. Mann pull up something out of his pocket?
I didn't see that, no.
Okay. And when you were at the arcade, did you notice something that looked like this?
Yes.
And is this what you seen Mr. Stevens hit Mr. Mann with?
Yes.
Can I have a short recess if I could?
You can.
When you seen Brad Stevens by the water fountain, would you say he looked angry?
I really...
Your Honor, can you please instruct?
Only answer yes or no to the questions.
Can you repeat the question?
When you seen Mr. Brad Stevens at the water fountain, would you say he looked angry?
He looked hurt.
Can you please instruct the witness to answer
Only
the
answer
question?
yes or no to the questions.
No.
Okay. And did you see him look at that lethal weapon, the 2x2?
No.
Okay, but did you see him hit Mr. Mann with the wood?
Yes.
Did you once hear Mr. Stevens ask Mr. Mann before he hit him?
See.
Did you ever once hear Mr. Stevens ask for permission to hit Mr. Mann with that deadly weapon? Okay, do you know what assault with a deadly weapon is?
Yes.
Okay, so did you hear him get his consent?
No.
And did it hurt him?
Yes.
And would you say it caused great bodily harm?
Yes.
Did you hear Mr. Steven once apologize to Mr. Mann?
No.
Did you see him call for any help?
Ooh.
Mr. Stevens call for any help from Mr. Mann?
No.
Did he try to help him up? Did he instead run like a common criminal does after committing such a crime?
Objection sustained. Members of the jury, please disregard the last question.
Did you see him run after the scene of the crime?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Brody, you may be seated. Defense, do you have any more witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, the defense would like to call Tanya Morgan to the stand.
Ms. Tanya Morgan, please approach to the stand.
Raise right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you may give now pending before this court may be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name.
Tanya Morgan.
Spell your last.
M-O-R-G-A-N.
You may be seated.
Good morning, Ms. Morgan.
Good morning.
Are you feeling a little nervous today?
Yes.
We'll just try and relax. I'm sure a lot of us are nervous. Ms. Morgan, will you please tell the court your occupation?
I'm a student in South High School.
Do you know Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Will you please point out Mr. Stevens and tell us what he's wearing?
He's wearing a black sweater and blue jeans.
Your Honor, will you please let the record show that Ms. Morgan pointed to the defendant?
Record will show that.
Thank you. Are you two friends?
Yes.
Are you two very close friends?
As boyfriend and girlfriend? Yes.
Do you have any reason at all to lie to keep your relationship going with Mr. Stevens?
If Brad told me to lie to save him, I would have done them. I don't need a guy like that.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Now, will you please tell the court where you were the night of June 4th around 7:30, 8 o'clock?
I was at Melanie's video arcade with Brad.
What were you doing in between this time period?
I was watching Brad playing Game Father.
Did anything special happen while he was playing?
He was winning.
Did Mr. Stevens score high on the game?
Yes.
What did you do after he scored high?
Both of us ran out of quarters, so both of us went to the cash machine to cash and change.
What did you see when you got back from getting change?
When we came back, we saw two other couples, that was Martin and Kearny, and they took over the game.
What did you do?
Brad went over there and asked politely that he came first, that he wanted to play the game again, but Martin just didn't look at him. He just kept on playing.
Did Martin have any reaction to what Brad said to him?
Martin got mad and told him to go play another game. That must have been Pac-Man or Donkey Kong, I don't know which.
Can you tell the court what happened next?
When Brad asked him again, Martin got mad and pushed him, and Brad landed on his hand, and it looked like he got hurt.
Did Martin do anything while Mr. Stevens was still on the ground?
Martin came towards him angrily, and he asked him if he ever sees him again, he's gonna go beat him up.
Miss Morgan, did you guys leave the arcade after this incident?
No.
What did you do?
We went to the fountain, and I helped him launch his skate off.
Did you see anybody walking towards you while you were still at the fountain?
Yes. I saw Martin coming toward us angry.
Did he have anything in his hand?
Yes.
Miss Morgan, could you say you're intimidated by Martin's size and his movements?
Look at him. He's tall. Yeah, I would say so.
I need order in the court.
Will you please tell us what happened next?
Can you repeat the question?
Will you please tell us what happened next after Martin was coming towards you?
Brad came, it happened all quickly. Brad just picked up a stick and hit him.
Do you feel the act of Mr. Stevens running did Mr. Stevens do anything after he hit Martin?
He ran.
Do you feel the act of Mr. Stevens running was the act of someone scared for his life or an act of a guilty man?
He was scared for his life.
Objection, Your Honor. She has no knowledge.
Objection sustained.
She has no knowledge what you were saying.
Objection sustained. Members of the jury, please regard the last question. You may continue.
Miss Morgan, what did you do after Mr. Stevens ran?
I went to call the ambulance.
What did you see when you returned to the scene?
I saw Mr. Cervantes and he had Brad.
Would you say Mr. Stevens was cooperating and not trying to escape?
Yes.
May I have a brief recess to consult with my co-counsel?
You can.
Ms. Morgan, you said that Mr. Mann had tried to go towards Brad while he was still on the ground. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you and Connie have to hold him back?
I hold him back, but I don't know about Connie. I don't know if she held him back.
Okay, so would you say that Mr. Martin was angry and was willing to do bodily harm to
Objection, Your Honor.
Yes.
She has no knowledge of what the witness was thinking.
Objection sustained. Members of the jury, please disregard the last question.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Prosecution would like to cross-examine the witness.
Good morning, Mrs. Morgan.
Good morning.
Were you Brad Stevens' date, June 4th, 1994?
Yes.
And do you like him enough to go out with him again?
Yes.
Okay. And do you really like to see your friends being accused of crimes?
No.
Okay. Didn't both you and Mr. Stevens leave the arcade?
You speak up, Counselor.
Didn't you and Mr. Stevens leave the machine to go get changed to play more?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it customary if you walk in an arcade and you see a game open that it's open for anyone to play?
Yes, but there's other games there.
Can you please instruct the witness to answer all my questions, yes or no?
Only answer yes or no to the question.
Then couldn't you have gone to another game if you seen that it was occupied?
Yes.
And did you or Mr. Brad Stevens leave anything by the game or leave one of you, don't save the game for anybody?
No.
So does that not mean it was open for everyone to play?
Yes.
Okay. When you came back, you seen Mr. Martin and Connie Cook playing the games, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And didn't Brad Stevens tell him to go play a different game?
Yes.
Didn't Brad Stevens try to push his way between Martin and the game?
No.
Objection, Your Honor. Would you please tell the witness to stick to the facts?
Please.
Approach the bench.
Approach the bench.
In the fact sheet it says that Brad tried to shoulder, but Tanya did not say that he tried to shoulder, so she doesn't know.
She was there.
So she answered into the question, right?
Yeah, and that's why in court, because she was there, so she was there.
But Tanya didn't say that.
No, but I said that she was there.
Okay, what's happening here is the witness in this case is supposed to state the fact.
You asked
What we're doing now is we're trying to see whether
if Brad tried to shoulder, but you didn't say if she saw. You just said did Brad Stevens try to shoulder his way.
Yeah, but that's why, because she was there and we did do that, and she said
But she did not say that she saw him push him or try to shoulder his way into it.
it is in the fact sheet.
But you're asking on the testimony.
I want these witnesses to learn. Normally.
Right, in fact she says did she? But she didn't have the fact sheet. She just said what she said.
What was the question? What was the question?
It was in fact it was not. She did not say that she saw it. She didn't say it.
The question she asked.
The question was, in a real case, are the witnesses
That you can erase that off of the question. You saw.
called in one at a
I
time?
said,
The other
did
witness can't hear what the other
Mr.
witness
And she said no.
Right, because she didn't know if she did not say that she did. Ask the question again, and he's supposed to say yes, because if you say he did that, you must say yes or no. But according to the fact sheet, he did, but she doesn't know because she didn't say it in the fact sheet in her testimony. She's supposed not to say anything she doesn't know because it's only.
You still have to stick to the fact sheet.
You're not supposed to be up here.
Okay, the fact sheet. Give me the fact sheet.
Denise.
This is the fact sheet. These are facts. They can't dispute these.
I know,
So,
but
if it says here that he elbowed his way, that's really what that she has to agree to.
she asked that
I said, did he push his way in? And it says right here that no.
Elbow, but did you say
elbow.
push or elbow?
She said push.
You have to use
So
exactly
elbow?
these words. So you can say,
And if
you
we
may
object
revise
to
your
it-
question, and it has to be the exact question.
So you say objection sustained.
Order in the court. Objections sustained. Members of the jury, this is our last question.
Okay. Mrs. Morgan, did Brad Stevens elbow his way between Martin and the machine?
No. Objection, Your Honor. Would you please tell her to stick to the fact sheet?
Please answer the questions to the fact sheet.
I'm not sure.
Only answer yes or no to the questions.
Your Honor, may we approach the bench?
You can.
Show the witness the fact sheet, please.
Judge, real quick.
Yes.
Both. Chantel? You said elbow. That's why I'm objecting.
But it says shoulder. No, Dr. Shore told her to ask it as it is. But it's shouldered. That's why I objected because you asked if she elbowed. That's different.
Shoulder.
She better say yes.
Okay, well, I don't know what the change is. It says shoulder, so you're going to have to revise it. You say, Your Honor, I will revise my question.
Your Honor, let's get some order.
Please order in the court.
Denise.
Your Honor, I will revise my last question. Did Mr. Stevens shoulder his way in between Martin and Rick?
Yes.
Okay. Doesn't Brad Stevens tend to get in an excited state when he's playing games?
Objection, Your Honor, irrelevant.
Objection overruled. You may proceed.
Can I have a brief recess?
You can.
Can you say for that one comment you said cause for an opinion? Does it go say no or so if she has something to say?
Mrs. Morgan, is this the lethal weapon that Brad Stevens used?
Yes.
Okay. And earlier, did you see Mr. Martin pulling something out of his back pocket?
Yes.
Can you please tell the court what this is?
That is a wallet.
And can you please tell the court what this is?
That is a pocket knife.
Doesn't Exhibit B look more in the lines of what Mr. Martin pulled out of his back pocket?
I'm not sure.
Only answer yes or no to the questions.
Objection, Your Honor. Questions too vague.
Objection sustained. Members of the jury, please are the last question.
Your Honor, may I please have another short recess with my co-counsel?
You can.
We might have to give her a close.
Mrs. Morgan, this is a wallet, correct?
Yes.
And this is a pocket knife, correct?
Yes.
Would you say these two things look anything alike?
No, they don't.
So could either one of these be mistaken for each other?
No.
Okay. Do you know what assault with a deadly weapon is?
Yes.
Okay. So you know, did Mr. Brad Stevens hit Mr. Martin Yan with the wooden 2x2? Did Mr. Stevens hit?
Yes.
Okay, and did he use force?
Yes.
And did he happen to get Mr. Mann's consent before hitting him?
No.
So he never asked his permission to hit him, correct?
No.
Okay, and did it cause great bodily harm to him?
Martin? Yes.
Okay, and did Mr. Stevens ever apologize to Mr. Mann for his actions?
No.
Did he bother calling 911?
No.
Did he bother calling anyone else for help?
No.
Did he bother to see if he was okay?
No.
Did he try to offer to help him up?
No.
Did he run from the scene of the crime?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Okay. Ms. Tanner Morgan, you may be seated. We now have 5 minutes recess.
Hey, we can get up. All right.
Oh my God.
Are we allowed to use that door?
Good job, you guys. Good job, witnesses.
They ain't getting me. They ain't gonna get me.
Remember, think about the question before you answer.
Oh, cool.
When they cross-examine, think.
Yeah, he owed me some money from his bet.
You know, I got you, buddy.
Well, that's important.
Call me Facebook, Brad Stevens. I'll call you one day.
You hear that?
Thursday.
Go what?
I'm not gonna be in school.
Come on. After I show you why you got no background music. I know.
Order in the court. Will not continue with the trial. Defense, do you have any more witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, we'd like to call Brad Stevens.
Mr. Brad Stevens, supposed to stand.
Raise right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony that you may give now before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Take your name.
Brad Stevens.
Say likeness.
S-T-E-V-E-N-S.
Thank you, may be seated.
Good morning, Mr. Stevens.
Good morning.
Feeling a little nervous?
Is it okay?
Just try and relax. Mr. Stevens, will you please explain why you're not in a suit today?
I fractured my thumb a week ago, so I can't pick up the cast.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, will you please state your occupation?
Go to South High School?
Are you a rowdy person?
No.
Are you a quiet person?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens, where were you the night of June 4th?
At Mummy's Video Arcade?
Were you with anyone the night in question?
Yeah, I was with Tanya Morgan.
What were the two of you doing around the time of 8 o'clock?
She was watching me play soccer.
Did anything special happen while you were playing the game?
Yes. The previous high score record of 60,000 points.
And what did you do next?
I wanted to play a game so I could beat it again.
And did you play?
No.
Why?
I didn't have any change.
And what did you do next?
I asked Tanya if she had any change, and she didn't need it.
What did the two of you do when you realized neither had change?
We both went to the change machine.
Why didn't one of you go?
She wanted to change also, so we just figured we both go.
What did you see when you got back to the machine?
Martin and Connie there.
Did you say anything to Mr. Mann and Miss Cook?
Yes, I asked Mr. Mann lightly if he go play Donkey Kong.
Objection, Your Honor. Will you tell me to please stick to the facts?
Objection overruled.
Did Mr. Mann say anything in return?
Yes, he sarcastically told me to play Pac.
What happened after he said this?
I tried to play again.
And what happened after that?
He pushed me to the ground.
Did this fall injure you in any way?
Yeah, I sprained my right hand and sprained my right wrist and scraped my hand.
What happened next?
He still kept coming toward me, but was restrained by Tanya and Connie.
What happened after he was restrained?
He told me that if he saw me again, he'll mess me up.
Was Mr. Mann angry?
Yes.
What was going through your mind at this time?
Scared. I was on the ground, hurt. He was big, so you know.
Your
Scared.
Honor, thank you. Your Honor, will you please have Mr. Mann stand up?
Mr. Who?
Mr. Mann.
Mr. Mann, please stand up.
Your Honor, will you please have Mr. Stevens stand up?
Mr. Stevens, please stand up.
Can you have him stand up off the stand? So he's at floor level.
Can you stand up off the stand? Please order in the court.
Mr. Stevens, it is quite obvious that Mr. Mann is bigger and possibly stronger than you. Is this true?
Yes.
Your Honor, will you please have them sit down?
Can you sit down?
Mr. Stevens, were you intimidated by Mr. Mann's size and comments at this time?
Yeah.
Did you do anything after this incident?
Me and Tanya went to the fountain so I could wash my hand off.
What did you see while you were washing your hand?
Martin coming towards me.
Did he still look mad?
Yeah.
What were you thinking as he was coming at you?
That he was going to live up to what he said. He saw me again, he's going to mess me up. So I thought I was going to do something again.
Mr. Stevens, was it dimly lit in the area you were at?
Yes.
Did Mr. Mann make any movements?
Yes.
What type of movement did he make?
So he was reaching in his pocket, he pulled out what appeared to be a knife.
Were you intimidated by this movement?
Yes, I had one hand, so there wasn't much I could do.
Mr. Stevens, what were you thinking about while he was coming at you?
I had to defend myself some way.
And did you do anything to defend yourself?
Yes, when he was close enough, I grabbed the closest thing to me, which was a wood from the windowsill, and hit him with it.
Mr. Stevens, are you right-handed?
Yes,
And was it not your right hand that was injured when you fell?
yes,
So in a sense, you were handicapped.
yes,
So in a sense, you were protecting yourself.
yes.
Did you do anything after you hit him?
I dropped it and ran because I thought he was going to come up after me again.
And why did you run?
Because I was scared. I mean, any person in my state of mind, I have only one hand to do something with. So I couldn't do nothing else but run.
Why didn't you get help from Mr. Mann?
I thought he was coming after me.
Did you see Mr. Cervantes running after you?
No, the first time I didn't. I was running, like, glimpsed. And the second time I glimpsed again, I noticed it was him. Then I stopped.
When Mr. Cervantes stopped you and asked you why you hit Martin, you replied, "I just had to." What did you mean by this statement?
I meant that was the only way I could defend myself, do something.
Mr. Stevens, do you feel you did anything against the law?
No.
Your Honor, may I have a brief recess?
You can.
Mr. Stevens, you said that the reason why you hit him was to defend yourself. Is this true?
Correct.
Did you, excuse me, are you aware that by law you are able to defend yourself to protect you or anybody else from further damage to their body? I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Good morning, Mr. Stevens.
Good morning.
Can you please instruct the witness to answer yes or no to all my questions?
Mr. Stevens, only answer yes or no to those questions.
Okay. You were at Melanie's Arcade, June 4th, 1994, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And wasn't this yours and Tanya's first date?
Yes.
Your Honor, could you instruct the witness to speak up, maybe speak into the microphone?
Yes.
Answer louder, please.
Didn't both you and Tanya leave the game unoccupied?
Yes.
So since the game was left unoccupied, wouldn't this mean that it was open for anybody?
Yes.
And if you really wanted to play the game again, couldn't you have easily left Tanya behind to save the game for you or something else behind?
Yes.
Okay. And when you see Mr. Mann playing the game, didn't he have all rights to that game?
Yes.
And didn't you tell him to go play Pac-Man instead?
Yes.
Couldn't you have easily avoided this whole situation and went and played Pac-Man yourself?
Yes.
And instead of playing Pac-Man, didn't you instead go and try to shoulder your way in between Martin and the game?
Yes.
Which again, that was unavoidable if you would have went and played another game, correct?
Yes.
And do you consider the lighting to be dim?
Yes.
Okay, but yet it's dim enough to see other people in the room, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and it's light enough to play arcades, correct?
Yeah.
So isn't it light enough to see what Mr. Mann was pulling out of his wallet? I mean, pulling out of his pocket? Okay, and as you said earlier, this was yours and Tanya's first date, correct?
Correct.
And were you trying to impress her since it was your first date?
No.
Objection overruled.
So since it was your first date, you didn't care if they didn't want you to play the game even though you wanted to? You were just going to back off even though it was your first date?
Repeat the question again?
Since it was your first date, you didn't want to try to impress her at all by going and continuing playing the game, no matter what it would take?
No.
Okay. So you didn't care that Mr. Man was there?
What do you mean?
You did not care that Mr. Man was playing soccer?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, when you came back from the machine, you did not care that Mr. Man was at the machine?
No.
Then, but you cared enough to try to shoulder your way in, correct?
Technically.
Answer the question.
Yes.
Can I have a short recess with my co-counsel?
You can.
In your earlier testimony, didn't you testify that you told Mr. Martin to go play Pac-Man?
Yes.
I mean Donkey Kong, sorry.
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man?
What
In
did
your testify earlier, did you testify that you told Mr. Man to go play Donkey Kong?
One of them, yes. One of them games.
Okay.
Yes to your question. Just need a yes or no answer.
I have another short list.
You can.
He said yes. He said yes, and then you say he said yes. Now when you go up there, say, did you not just recently tell me that you told him to go play Pac-Man? Yes. Do you
beat this to death? It's not important.
I know that's
Okay, so don't beat it to death.
Okay. When you were by the water fountain, you were right here, correct?
Can you wait a little bit?
I'm sorry.
Order in the car. I need silence, please. You may continue.
Okay, you were right here, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Mann and Connie Cook were up here, correct?
Correct.
Isn't the doorway right here?
Yes.
And doesn't a person in order to get out of the arcade have to approach the door?
Yes.
And don't they have to go out through this way towards the water fountain but cross over through the doorway?
Yes.
So you do not know for a fact that Mr. Man was coming to approach you to attack you, do you?
No.
Okay then. But yet you attacked him with the wooden stick, correct?
Yes.
And do you know what assault with a deadly weapon is?
Yes.
Okay, so did you use force with the deadly weapon?
Swung. Yes.
Okay. And you said earlier that he was pulling something out of his back pocket, correct?
Correct.
And do you know what this is?
Yes.
Is this a wallet?
Yes.
Is this a pocket knife?
Yes.
Do these look anything alike to you?
No.
But you said the lighting was dim, correct?
Correct.
But yet it was bright enough to see people all the way on the other side of the room, right? If you're right
Repeat the
here
question.
and they're up here,
Correct.
isn't it bright enough to see people on the other side of the room?
With the games, correct.
Okay, so wouldn't it be bright enough to see what Mr. Mann was pulling out of his pocket?
Technically, no.
But yet you just said that they look nothing alike.
Correct.
So you cannot possibly mistake a knife for a wallet.
Say again?
So could you possibly mistake a wallet for a pocket knife?
Yes. By the way, it was. I can't explain myself.
And you hit him with a wooden stick, correct?
Correct.
Did you ask for his permission? Okay. Did you cause bodily harm to him?
Objection, no personal.
Objection overruled.
Repeat the question.
Did you cause bodily harm to Mr. Mann?
Yes.
And again, I ask you to do it without his consent, am I correct?
Excuse me?
And again, I ask you did do it without his consent, correct?
Correct.
So therefore, isn't that the law assault with a deadly weapon?
Correct.
Okay, and after you hit him, did you bother calling anybody for help?
No.
Did you even bother calling the manager of the arcade for help?
No.
Did you bother telling your date, Tanya Morgan, to get help?
No.
And instead you just ran?
Yes.
Were you even concerned that he was all right by asking him or checking on him?
No.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Stephen, you may be seated. File is dismissed. Let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that you are not to talk to any lawyer, witness, or have any access information. Court is adjourned until Friday, 9:30.
Okay, Friday, we'll have closing statements, that's all we have left, and then the jury will go deliberate, so if you can come back Friday, that'll be fine.
Elbow it.
Dr. Short, you let them beat the people to death?
What?
You let him beat this staff to death on his shoulders.
I guess it's